My name is Lavina Daniel, and my history assignment is on World War I effects and its causes. World War I Introduction. World War I, also known as the First World War or the Great War and the War to End All Wars, was a world conflict lasting from 1914 to 1919, with the fighting lasting until 1918. The war was fought by the Allies on one side and the Central Powers on the other. No previous conflict had mobilized so many soldiers or involved so many in the field of battle. By its end, the war had become the second bloodiest conflict in recorded history. World War I became infamous for trench warfare, where troops were confined to trenches because of tight defenses. This was especially true of the Western Front. More than 9 million died on the battlefield and nearly that many more on the home fronts because of food shortages, suicide and ground combat, among other notable events. The first large-scale bombing from the air was undertaken, and some of the century's first large-scale civilian massacres took place as one of the aspects of modern efficient non-chivalrous warfare. World War I was a global war centered in Europe that began on 28 July 1914 and lasted until 11 November 1918. The war included the imperialistic foreign policies of the great powers of Europe, including the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Russian Empire, the British Empire, the French Republic, and Italy. The assassination on 28 June 1914 of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, by a Yugoslav nationalist in Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, was the proximate trigger of the war. It resulted in a Habsburg ultimatum against the Kingdom of Serbia. Several alliances formed over the previous decades were invoked, so within weeks the major powers were at a war. Via the colonies, the conflict soon spread around the world. The newspapers also played their role in poisoning public opinion of their respective countries and thus embittering the relationship between the countries. The nationalist feeling was inflamed by them by misspreading facts. Every country is held at some time to account for the windows broken by its press. The bill is presented some day or other in the shape of hostile sentiments in the other country, remarked Bismarck, the German Chancellor, about the attitude of newspaper in creating public opinion, which in turn shaped the policies of the government. Effects. The First World War was an unprecedented experience of humanity. No war had taken so huge a toll of lives before it, nor was any war before it joined by so many countries or people. This war was fought in 3 continents of Europe, Asia and Africa, on different fronts. Air, water, land, everywhere the war was fought. Fighter planes and destructive weapons such as bombs were used in the war. The harmful effects of these weapons did not remain confined to the soldiers. They reached the civilians as well. There was a terrible destruction of human life and staggering loss of property. The war was also important in terms of its consequences for the future, and thus it was a turning point in world history. Economic effects. One of the most dramatic effects of the war was the expansion of governmental powers and responsibilities in Britain, France, the United States, and the dominions of the British Empire. In order to harness all the power of their societies, governments created new ministries and the powers. New taxes were levied and laws enacted, all designed to bolster the war effort. Many have lasted to this day. Similarly, the war strained the abilities of some formerly large and bureaucratized governments, such as in Austria, Hungary, and Germany. However, any analysis of the long-term effects were clouded by the defeat of these governments. Causes. The causes of World War I included a growing sense of militarism, which was accompanied by an arms race and imperialism as economic rivalries, and competition for colonies among European nations were prevalent. The effects of the war included 8.5 million deaths, higher taxes, rationing of food and other products, a propaganda war, and famine. While the whole of the 17th century and 18th century witnessed a number of long and bloody wars, the 19th century was comparatively an era of peace as no major war took place. After the fall of Napoleon in 1815 till 1914, it would be therefore natural to inquire as to what circumstance brought about this conflagration. When World War I ended, more than 8.5 million people were dead, double the numbers were wounded, and many were handicapped for life. Also, famine threatened many regions. The destruction was made even worse in 1918 by a deadly epidemic of influenza. In just a few months, the flu swept around the world, killing more than 20 million people. World War I brought about many bad things.